Capital One Paul here. Today I'm going to be going over how to use the Fibonacci retracement for stocks. We're going to look at a couple examples. I'll probably look at SPY and a couple others. I'm going to start out on the day chart, and we'll look at how you can use this to find good levels, to find bounces. And also, if you use this with the, the L&L strategy, that will also help find, good moments to get in trades. But the main focus here is using the Fibonacci to find good bounces. Also, you won't want to use other strategies to confirm your trades. But basically, this works really well. Start out on the day and kind of work your way down. You'll find some really good bouncing points, and you'll kind of have a good idea where the market's going and where it's going to bounce and if it's going to keep coming down. But I'll show you how to do this with the trend going up and the trend going down, and what to look for and how to scale it when you're going into a smaller time frame. Okay, so first, to get started, you need to go to your day chart. And you want to start with a blank canvas here. You don't want anything here. Now, I do have L&L up here to kind of help me out with, later on. But for the most part, you want to start with a blank chart here. And what you want to do is you want to look on your day chart, and we'll look at the S&P. Now, currently, the market is not moving, so it's a perfect time to show you this. You want to go to your indicators here, and you want to go to Fib retracement. Now, there's two methods here that you want to keep in mind. So if you're in a bullish trend, which is what the S&P is doing right now, you want to start from the top down. If you're in a bullish trend with the auto Fibonacci, you want to start from the top down. You want to find the highest point to the lowest point. If you're in a bearish moment, you want to go from the bottom to the top. So I'll show you first. I'll first show you bearish because we're not currently bearish. So for it to be completely bearish, these basically have to be doing the opposite. But for bearish, you want to go from the bottom to the top. And basically, if this was a bearish situation, we would be concerned on how far down is this going to go. Basically, we are not in a bearish situation, but you can see from this that we do have a top right up here. But this is not a bearish situation. But if the S&P was in a bearish situation, then this is what you'd be looking at. And you know that the S&P is not going to come all the way down here. So we are not in a bearish situation. But use that in case you want to, if you want to calculate the bearish moment. So to find it with bullish momentum here, to find bullish momentum, you want to go from the top down, which it's going to do the opposite. So it's going to be from this one here to the one down here. And once you do that, you want to make sure you lock it. And then you got your Fibonacci. So you can, now if you do not want to just have your Fibonacci here, you can go in your settings and you can turn off the background color if you prefer. But and you can also, if you want, you can also change all your colors to one. You could change all your colors to, let's say, white if you want. You can check off the levels. We need the levels and things like that. You can check all these off if you want to. It's personal preference. But it's basically the same thing. There's less clutter there if you want to do it this way. But I'm going to keep it with the default. So if you want to keep it like that, you can. So anyway, we've drawn SPY out here with the Fibonacci, so we can tell that we are in a bullish moment. So we know that looking at this, the top basically is right here. So we know that about 605, there's a lot of resistance for it. So there's going to be a lot of pullbacks at 605. So you know that at around 605, there's a likelihood that it will get rejected if it does not break 605. If it does not break 605, then the market's going to go down. So you can pretty much predict at this point right here, you can put in some puts. If it does not break, you know that from 605, you can pretty much put in some puts and be accurate. So you don't want to do this on the day chart, or you don't want to do this on a long time frame and just base off of the Fibonacci and be like, you don't want to do this on the day or the weekly and be like, okay, well that's this is resistance, so I'm just going to put in a put. Once you have it drawn out on the daily, you need to go to a smaller time frame to get more precise trades, basically. So what you can tell, even though we know that this is resistance right here, you want to be more exact. So if you look at it on the hour, you want to wait for the candle and you want to look at it on the hour or the 15-minute, and you want to look at the candles and you want to make sure they're getting as close to this top as possible. And then you put in your put, because you want to get as close to that number as possible to get the best results. Because we already know here that, let's see, if we go back to the day here. If we go back to the day, you'll notice that it has not been able to break this yet. So you know that it's most likely going to reject when it gets to 605. So basically it rejects at 605. And basically that's how you do it there for the S&P. So you go to a smaller time frame once you have your Fibonacci drawn out. And then you can also time it for the rejections. You can also time it for the bounces back up. So basically by looking at this, we can tell that there's probably going to be rejection up here, and because it's ranging right now, currently making this video, from about 605 to 584. So that's the range. So you know that if the candles get close to 584, it's most likely you can put in calls at that point. So as we zoom out here, you'll notice that it's been ranging here in this channel between 605 to 585 for about a little while here. It's been here for about 30 days. So we know that it's ranging between these two numbers. So your bounce zone, really, by looking at this, is around 584. That's a good, when it gets close to 584, that's a good time to put in calls. When it gets up here, this is a good time to do puts. That's unless if it breaks this line, then that's something different, because it has broken the resistance here. So that's SPY real quick, but let's real quickly, I want to look at a couple other assets, and we want to do the same thing. Look at a couple we're going to go back to the day. And let's look at a couple stocks. Let's look at NVIDIA. And the first thing you want to do is you want to get, now NVIDIA, we can tell right off the bat that it's in a bullish situation. So what we want to do is we want to get our Fibonacci, and we want to get to the highest point, which is right up here. So you get to your highest point and you go down to your lowest point, which is right around here. Now, looking at this, we can tell that the resistance is at, if we look over it, the bounce zone really is at 154. So there could be some pullback at 154, and there could be a bounce at 126. So you want to make sure you just get a good idea of what's happening on the day here. So we see it's 153 is the resistance, and around 126, 127 is the support. So if we look at this, we know that about 127, it'll probably bounce up. It could come down to 127, and it could reject at about 154. So now that we know that, we can go to our smaller time frame. But real quickly, what I like doing is to see the bigger picture. I want to extend the Fibonacci. So I want to extend the Fibonacci so we have a better idea here. So we can see easier here because we extended the Fibonacci to the right. And what I was saying here is there is resistance right now at 154, so there's most likely to be rejection at 154, and there's likely to be bounces at around 126. So right now, NVIDIA is in between. It's in between the range. And whenever it is in between a range, I do not do trades. The candles have to be either pretty close to the top of a range or the bottom of a range for me to take trades. When it's in the middle, that means it could go either way. And that's something you got to be cautious. Never take trades when it's in the middle of a range. So anyway, that's looking at NVIDIA. Let's look at one more asset real quick, or maybe a couple more here. Let's look at Meta. And we're going to go to our day chart. And see. So you want to go to your Fibonacci. You want to go to your highest point, to your lowest point. And once you draw the Fibonacci, make sure you lock it because it will move. And then you want to look at it. And what we could tell on Facebook here is there is resistance at 745, and there's a potential bounce zone at around 681, 682. So that's the range. This is a good, in my opinion, this looks like a good call. If we go to our hour here, we know that it is just touching that Fibonacci, so we might be due for a little bounce coming very soon. Now, for another confirmation, I'll look at the L&L. Now, the L&L is telling me that it's going to go down further. So you want to keep in mind, because it can bounce here. It can bounce at this point right here, so you got to be careful. So the L&L is saying it's probably going to keep going down, and we could go down here. It could break down to this level here, so you got to keep your eye on that. But the Fibonacci is saying that a bounce is also quite possible. So that's looking at Facebook. Let's look at MicroStrategy. Let's look at MicroStrategy. We're going to look at it on the day. Okay, so what you want to do, you want to zoom out. And you want to go to your Fibonacci. And you want to go to your highest point to your lowest point. It's right about here. And then you want to make sure you lock it. Now, if we zoom in real quickly, We can tell that there is resistance around 387. So there's likely to be pullbacks around 387, and there's likely to be bounces at around 354. So if we go and we look at our hour, we can see that it's probably going to try and get up here to this 387, and then it's going to pull back a little. But the best moment to actually get in for good points of work, especially uh, if you're looking for a high percentage gains, if you're not, because MicroStrategy is expensive, especially if you're doing options. If you want to ride it back up, you want to wait for there to be a pullback, and you want to wait for it to come down here, as close down here as possible. Because once the candles get close down here, if there is a bounce, you could probably catch it. You could probably catch it all the way back up here, bounce all the way back. So you got to wait for it to fall a little bit, and you could catch a 9% move right there. So that's easy to find. You just got to wait for the candles, because you can do options if you want, but it's really expensive. If you want to find a good bullish moment, you got to wait for these candles to come back down to the support line, which is, so right now that support line is about 354. So anyway, those are just a couple of assets that you can look at by using the Fibonacci. You can really find good. You can find your levels a lot clearer. So anyway, if you guys like the strategy, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in future videos.